Welcome to rSlash Am I the Butthole, where OP gets a mother of two arrested. Am I the butthole for getting a mother of two arrested because she assaulted me at work? I'm a 19-year-old guy, and I work in a fairly popular chain retail store. Everything started about 3 days ago when I was working the closing shift. One thing to note about our store is that if an item is not in stock, the customer can ask us to order the item to any branch of their choosing to be delivered the next day. The woman in question walked through the doors about 2 minutes before we were closing and walked straight up to the register where I was working. She looked quite rushed and started explaining that she was here to collect an order that she had placed. I politely explained that the area to collect deliveries had closed several hours ago and that she would have to return tomorrow if she wanted to get her delivery. She began pleading and explained that she had been too busy taking care of her children, who were there with her, to come and pick up her order. I explained that the delivery area had its own separate staff, and anyone with access to the room had already left the building. She seemed frustrated by this response, but left with her children. Since I was already scheduled to work the following day, I knew that I would have to deal with this woman, and I was dreading having them return to the store. As not only was she condescending and rude, but her children were quite loud and energetic, and knocked over a lot of stuff, which I had to clean up. The following day, I was about halfway through my shift when the woman walked up to my register and placed a candle on the counter, which I rung her up for. And then she started demanding that I track her order as she went up to the collections area and they were unable to find their order. I checked the system and noticed that the order was placed over a month ago, so I told her that because she hadn't picked up her order within the 14-day window, the order had likely been sent back to the warehouse. She flew off the handle, saying this was all my fault, and if I had just let her get the parcel yesterday, everything would have been fine. I tried to explain that the parcel would have already been sent back weeks ago, but before I could even finish my sentence, she picked up the candle and threw it at me. It was one of those candles in a glass jar, and it hit me in the temple and smashed to the ground, and I ended up falling and hitting my head on the wall behind me. As I was trying to get up, she started shouting even louder and threw other various objects at me. The commotion must have attracted security, as they ended up taking her to the back and held her and her two children there until the cops showed up. And my manager told me to go to the break room until she called me on my headset. I ended up sitting in the break room for about an hour and a half until my manager walked in with the cops. They sat down and started asking a bunch of questions about what happened, and I told them everything. Then they asked me if I wanted to press charges on the woman, and even though I'm not seriously injured outside of a bruise on my head, I told them I would. My manager then told me to clock out early and said that I could take the rest of the week off. When I went home, I told my mom everything, and she called me a heartless butthole and told me she didn't raise me like this. She said I should have thought about the impact it would have on the woman's children to have their mother in jail, and that I wouldn't understand how difficult it is to be a mother. I initially thought that I was in the right, but after talking to my mother, I'm now second-guessing myself, so I just don't know. Am I the butthole? Yo, what about the impact of getting brain damage from having heavy glass objects hurled at your skull? Screw that lady, put her ass in jail. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the lady who assaulted you 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for leaving my family to fend for themselves? I'm a 20-year-old guy, and I'm the middle child in a family that honestly feels like a case study for what family therapy tries to prevent. My mom's an alcoholic with serious psychological issues, and a bit of an Oedipus complex that even Freud would throw his hands up at. My older brother, who's 28 and a bit of an addict, dropped out of college years ago and survives off debt and favors that usually I end up paying for. My teen sister can't even make her own breakfast. And my 12-year-old brother, who's autistic, is probably the most emotionally mature person in the house. Basically, I've been taking care of everyone for as long as I can remember. I don't want to sound like a victim, but it's the truth. When I was a teenager, I spent countless nights picking up my mother from work events, where she would get drunk until she passed out, urinate on herself, and start yelling at her coworkers. My older brother constantly asked me for money to pay off his debts from buying marijuana. And my sister always came to me crying after another fight with my mother, or whenever she needed money for some emergency that turned out to be movie tickets. A few weeks ago, I received the best news of my life. I was accepted into a scholarship and internship program in London. It was an incredible opportunity because it was something I had worked hard for while studying and working 2 jobs. I cried. I'm not even ashamed of it. For once, I felt that all the sacrifices and sleepless nights had been worth it. That night I told my family, foolishly expecting them to be proud of me. They weren't. My mother basically asked me who would help her pay the bills when I left. Then she started yelling across the dining room. My older brother told me it must be easy for me to run off to Europe while leaving them to sink into poo. And my sister accused me of abandoning her, saying I had promised her that I would always be there for her, and then brought up the mistakes I made when I was 16. Even my little brother called me an idiot, although I'm pretty sure he was just repeating what he heard others say. They all called me selfish, when I'm still the invisible pillar of this family. I don't earn much, but everything I have ends up in their hands, somehow. I never thought about abandoning them or cutting off contact, but their reaction left me dismayed. I've been selling my things, saving every penny, organizing my paperwork, and preparing to leave at the end of this year. None of them talk to me anymore. And honestly, this time, I'm not going to apologize for taking a chance of thinking about what they want. But I can't help thinking about how much my family will fall apart if I leave. They don't even talk to me, and they spend their time talking trash about me. Honestly, the one that I'm most worried about is my younger brother. It's not his fault, so am I the butthole? OP, when you land in London, I would recommend also changing your name and changing your phone number. You get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Also, pro tip, before you leave, make sure you lock down all your documents like your passport, your social security number. Make sure your mom hasn't taken out a credit card, or your brother for that matter, hasn't taken out a credit card in your name, because while you're in London, it'll be very easy for your family to take advantage of your absence, and it would be very hard for you to keep track of their activities. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your family varying degrees of like 1 to 3.5 out of 5. Am I the butthole for walking out of a family dinner after my parents insulted my Thai wife? My wife, Fa, is a 32-year-old woman from Thailand. We met while she was studying in the US, fell in love, and got married 5 years ago. She's an amazing woman, kind, hardworking, and incredibly smart. Unfortunately, my parents have never fully accepted her. From the beginning, they made offhand comments about her being a gold digger and only marrying me for my green card. No matter how many times I told them otherwise, they held on to this ignorant assumption. It doesn't matter that Fa has a successful career, makes her own money, she makes more than me by the way, and has never asked me for a dime because, in their eyes, she's one of those foreign women who trap American men. Last weekend, we were at dinner at my parents' house. At first, things were civil, but then my dad smirked and said, "So, Fa, now that you've been married 5 years, do you finally get to keep your green card?" My mom laughed and added, "Guess you don't have to be on your best behavior anymore, huh?" Fa went pale. I was furious. I told them to cut it out, but my dad doubled down and said that they're just joking, but that we can't blame them for wondering how much of this marriage was for love and how much was for the visa. My mom nodded and said they just want to make sure that I wasn't being taken advantage of. That was it. I stood up, told them we weren't staying for dinner, and walked out with Fa. In the car, she was quiet, then finally asked me if they really think that way of her, which just broke my heart. Now my parents are saying I embarrassed them in front of the other family and overreacted. My brother says I should have just kept the peace and talked to them later. They are refusing to apologize, claiming it was just a joke. I don't regret standing up for my wife. But now I'm wondering if I should have just waited until everyone else was gone to call them out on it. Why is it OP's obligation to keep the peace after they insult OP's wife, but it's not OP's parents' obligation to just not make rude comments from the get-go? OP, if you had waited until everyone left, you would have been a coward who doesn't stand up for his own wife. You 100% did the right thing here. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your racist parents 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my neighbor that I have no desire or obligation to babysit her children just because I'm a stay-at-home mom? I'm new to the area, and I've made friends with a few neighbors through a Mommy and Me group. I've been in the group now a little over a month, and I have a 9-week-old. I have a neighbor who's in the group, and she asked me last week in an emergency if I could watch her 3 and 5-year-old. She looked desperate, so I agreed. I was like, well, it's just once. I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom, and I enjoy all the time with my little one. The day that I watched her children was crazy hectic. My daughter was fussy, and her children were very rambunctious, to say the least. I was happy when she came and got them 6 hours later. She came to me today saying she needed me to watch the kids every afternoon. I told her, no, I'm not a full-time babysitter, and I have no desire to take that much time away from my own child and navigate life with my child and husband. Her response was, well, it's not like I'm asking a lot, it's just the afternoons. I said, it may not be a lot to her, but it is a lot to me. My husband works from home, and he needs the house quiet to work. And I'm a new mom, and I'm not interested in taking on other responsibilities other than what I have right now. She told me I was selfish. I told her she was entitled to think that I should help her just because I'm home with my little one. Am I the butthole for being so forward? OP, are these your kids that you have with the neighbor? Did you knock up the neighbor woman? If not, then I don't see how this is supposed to be your problem. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the other lady 1 out of 5 buttholes for her entitlement. Am I the butthole for telling my father and his girlfriend that the gift she got me was creepy and invasive? I'm expecting my first child due in February. This is the first grandchild on both sides, so everyone is very excited about it. My father's girlfriend, Lena, and I have an okay relationship, but we're very different people. I don't like most of the things she likes and vice versa. There's no bad blood between us, but she can be a bit pushy sometimes, so we're not exactly close. One of the biggest differences between me and Lena is our stance on influencer culture. She loves it, I don't. Since I got pregnant, she's been sending me posts on Instagram of random influencers talking about their experiences with childbirth, motherhood, etc. A few months ago, one of her favorite influencers gave birth and filmed the whole thing. She posted a cutesy, poorly edited video of the baby being born and her entire family watching from outside the delivery room, with country music playing in the background. Lena sent me that video, and I remember telling her that I would never do something like that. My husband and I celebrated Christmas at my cousin's place with the rest of my family. When it was time for us to exchange and open our gifts, Lena gave me an envelope. Inside was a videographer's business card. She told me she was hiring him to film my birth. I seriously cannot imagine being filmed while going through a medical procedure. And I don't want anyone besides my husband at the hospital with me. I've been clear about that since I announced my pregnancy. I didn't want to embarrass Lena, so I thanked her when she gave me the card. Yesterday, my husband and I had lunch with Lena and my father, and I told her that while I appreciated the gesture, I didn't feel comfortable with the videographer. I said she didn't have to get me anything else for Christmas, but I'd appreciate it if she didn't hire him. Both she and my father got offended, and we ended up having an argument. At one point, Lena started crying and said she couldn't understand why I'd pass up on the opportunity of creating such a beautiful memento of my child's birth. I replied that I found the idea of having someone film me during such a vulnerable moment to be creepy and invasive, and that this wasn't the first time I expressed that I was uncomfortable with it. My father said that it was rude of me to say that and refuse the gift, and he's very disappointed in me. My husband agrees with me, as does pretty much my whole family. I don't really think I did anything wrong, but my father's reaction is freaking me out. This is one of those gifts where the gift isn't really for the person receiving it, the gift is for the person giving it. This is for Lena's benefit because Lena's into this stuff, and my guess is she's planning on using this video to start her social media Instagram career. So OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving Lena 1.5 out of 5 buttholes. That was rSlash Am I the Butthole, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.